Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I am so excited to be here with you. It has most of the last couple of weeks I've had to record due to other things happening at this time, but I want to remain solid on the information that I give you, and I am excited to be back live on this evening. And this evening's topic is a great one. If you're following me on social media, you know that we have the opportunity to provide professional development on Mondays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time through our YouTube station, TT Innovates. It has been excellent over the last couple of weeks. I believe this is our 13th one, so I'm just really proud of the content that we're providing you with and the opportunities to be able to connect with you. And I'm glad that you made it here with me tonight. So what are we going to talk about? We are going to spend time tonight talking about the 4 C's, and one of those being the powerhouse. I believe all 4 are, but I'm going to spend time tonight on the power of collaboration and student collaboration in particular. We're going to spotlight PPR, and PPR preferences by saying that PPR is not the only one that connects to the power of student collaboration, or collaboration in general, because there are several different ways in which you can collaborate in our educational system. But I do want to say that what I'm going to talk to you tonight centers around collaborating with students directly from PPR. Okay? So here's our focus. Tonight, I plan to give you a case. I plan to build my case of the effectiveness of collaboration techniques. There are tons of them, and I will probably only touch the surface with a few of them because of our short time together. But there are tons of them available. And then I'm going to talk to you about assessments, because assessments are very important. It's a way for you to evaluate just how well you're doing with this particular, with any skill. But I'm going to talk to you in particular about how you can make the individuals and the groups accountable. I have heard, and I can recall my daughter just kind of being upset half the time because of having to be in a group and then essentially being the group leader and doing a lot of the work. And so I want to talk to you about ways in which you can do your very best to prevent that way and to have it actually be effective for all students. And then lastly, I'm going to talk to you about some technology options, because technology and the collaboration abilities have gone through the roof. We can do a lot of things real time that once upon a time we weren't able to do. And throughout this, I'll talk about PPR 160. Remembering anyone who hasn't seen our social media post regarding 160, it will be changing soon to 186. And I'm going to place some information out about those changes in the coming weeks. So look forward to that. Well, let me go ahead and put that plug in. Go ahead and go to our website, and I'll share with you at the end. And join our mailing list so you can get up-to-date information as it comes out. All right, 4 C's, right? And they are collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. Over the last couple of years, I'd say probably about 5 to 6 years, critical thinking has been the rage. And I'm not going to say one over the other is better than the other, but I am going to say that tonight, as I talk to you about collaboration, because remember, I am looking to give the effectiveness of this particular skill tonight. I'm making my case for it. That collaboration is one of consistently providing us with assistance with all learners in our classroom. And so I'm going to say that for tonight for collaboration. And don't hold me to it when I talk about the other 3 at some other date where I will make its effective case as well. But collaboration refers to the process where two or more individuals, small groups possibly, they are working together to achieve a shared learning goal. And this doesn't just happen. It's a structured process. There should be a lot of thoughts behind it, and most definitely the end goal in mind. Okay. There are several forms of collaboration types in our educational field, that being student to student, teacher to student, teacher to teacher, and I would say school to community. And we could probably jazz it up a little bit in difference to some of the other groups as well, or make known to other pieces. But tonight's focus is going to be student to student. Again, wanting to make sure that we are leveraging every piece that we can for our children to achieve and learn from each other. Okay, so really, if I don't say it with all of the language that goes along with this skill, I want to say it very clear. Our students are able to help each other and to help each other to advance with the ways in which we help them to learn to collaborate. Not to mention, it is a career skill that they must acquire. And any said occupation that we're in, collaboration has to happen in some form. So how does this connect to the PPR? So there's several different ways, competency 2, 6, and 8, but I'm going to hang my hat tonight on 8. So the teacher provides appropriate instruction that actively engages students in the learning process. Appropriate instruction and engages. We know that research-wise, as students are more engaged, the likelihood of them increasing in their understanding of said topic, their connection to it, their working around it, as I would say, getting their hands dirty within that skill. All of that helps them to then acquire the skill. It becomes something that they understand now. One of the ones that I want to highlight tonight, and like I said, there are lots of them, is the idea of cooperative learning. And give you a definition that kind of just sat with me a little bit. So Johnson & Johnson in 1999 did a study or combined information regarding several studies that they looked at. And they came up with this definition that I really like. And it says that cooperative learning exists when students work together to accomplish shared learning goals. Kind of sounds like what I said a few minutes ago. And so again, this is how the PPR 160 connects. As understanding the pedagogy and our professional responsibilities, we must know and understand how these things are connected. And it gives us a better understanding when it's time to take said tests. Okay, so how can I set up this strategy? What are some great ways in which for me to do that? First, I would say you, as the educator, have the goal in mind. It's centered around the objective, what in the end you want to happen. And then you begin to orchestrate this ball going. All right. So basically, you've gotten your goal. Now you want to form the groups. There are several different ways for you to form groups. You can do it organically, you can do it randomly, or you can do it with said abilities in mind. And one of our sessions before, I talked about differentiated learning. And I think that this lines up with that, with you making certain that whatever your goal is for your classroom, that you set your groups up in that manner. Then there's this discussion that comes from you, talking to them about what it is that you're wanting them to take care of, and making certain that all questions, as many as possible questions, because not all will be answered, because they'll still have some that they'll need clarity on. but that they generally understand what it is that you're asking them to do. They begin to complete the task. When they have completed the task, there should be some product produced. And then best method is that I produce this product and then I share my findings, because then each group after that can learn from another group. I used to love it when we were in, and I'm going to veer off a little bit and talk about teacher to teacher. I used to love in some of the trainings or professional developments that we received, opportunities where we would read a section of the article or the understanding of the theory or whatever they're presenting to us as a group. And then we would collectively come up with a summary of what was going on. And then once we explained it, the next group would explain a different part and so on, so that we could get a gist of what exactly was going on and not have to try and do it all alone. So that to me is the power of being in a group. That first of all, you have these diverse individuals all together coming up collectively with some great ideas, and then being able to share those said ideas together. And I'm going to go back to what makes this all work. Like I said before in the previous slide, there are some things that have to happen. Okay, there's some measures, some factors that you need to consider when you are getting ready to have your students collaborate in whatever set method you choose. So as I said before, there are different multiple levels and ways in which students can collaborate, whether it's student to student or student to teacher and so on. I mentioned that earlier. But there's also some research that talks about well collaborated learning opportunities increase achievement, academic achievement. It increases, of course, student engagement, which is what PPR 160 talked about. Social emotional development, critical thinking skills, and remember one of the 4 C's was critical thinking. Communication abilities, again, one of the 4 C's was communication. So that's kind of why I feel like this is really a powerhouse one in order for us to continue to get into. But we have to be very intentional for this to happen. This does not happen by itself. It's not something that just hey, I put the group together and everything's going to work out. No, there's some planning that goes into this. That objective, that goal, that desire that you want them in the end to understand, that has to be accounted for. Your space in particular also has it to be accounted for. There's very different ways that groups will operate in a classroom setting versus if we were going off to the PE room or to the auditorium. But you are creating this culture in your classroom that will basically allows these students to be successful. And of course, you want to make sure that they understand what it is that you're looking for them to do. And I want to kind of say also how you want to react. You want them to act and to react as audience participants, as well as those when it's time to present. So those are just a few things that I wanted to mention. But again, the planning has to be A1. They have to know what it is that you want them to do. They have to understand what the objective is. Somebody in the group has to be, I think that it happens by itself, but sometimes you do have to motivate a group to, in essence, select a leader per se. And you could also do this by giving particular jobs, and that can be random as well too. So a timekeeper, a recorder, a scribe, a designated leader of some sort, or again, depending on the maturity level of your groups, they can figure that out on their own. And then lastly, or not lastly, but in the next part that I want to talk about is that physical space. I mentioned being in an auditorium or something of that nature before. If you have created a culture in your classroom of students learning to collaborate and work together on smaller ways, I'll say things like think, pair, share, opportunities for them to have little small partner discussions. It's not going to be that hard when it becomes a larger, it shouldn't be that hard. Let me say that, when it becomes a larger group. So think of how you want to structure this. Okay. What particular technique do I want to use? Am I trying to do this jigsaw kind of activity? Am I using project-based learning? Have I chosen peer teaching as a way of putting in there? Or is there some type of collaborative problem solving that I'm going to interject? You have to make sure that you're going to do that said technique, and you're going to teach and show and model that said technique before you're asking them to go on it or to go at it on their own. Now, I know that seems very logical and sensible for my seasoned educators that have come on the line, but I wanted to say that because I think that sometimes as new and novice educators, we don't really think out every single piece and part of it. And when it fails to a certain extent, you feel like you won't try it again. These are research-based techniques that work when done with fidelity. And so I wanted to make sure that I brought that portion home before moving on to ways that we can assess our students. There are lots of ways, as you can see from our display screen, for us to assess our student. But I'm going to go back to the reminder of some students who feel like they have to take on the whole burden of the project by themselves, that if you assign the end goal in mind and you tell them how they're going to be scored and how their grades will be done, you will curtail some of that type of behavior. So I like to pair more than one together. For instance, they're going to give a public presentation. I'm going to give them a score for that. But I'd also like to have an individual reflection where they give me a reflection on what their piece or their part or their group has done as a group. That way I have their individual thoughts where those students who may have felt a certain way can speak out, and those that clearly from their response have not done very much, you'll be able to see. Then I also could pair together a structured discussion and then peer feedback. So again, I like to have more than one of these assessments together. Doing an anonymous peer evaluation form sometimes allow you to get to know your students a little bit better as they work in groups. And this, I'm thinking more so of when they are away from you working in the groups. When you are there in the classroom with them, you can see how they are working organically. You can kind of see as you go around and visit each group who's doing some work and who's not. Those things are just visible to you. But when they are asked to complete this and there's going to be some time away from you to do that, I suggest pairing more than one of these together. And each one of these are excellent opportunities for you to learn how your students work in groups and to, in essence, help them to become better in their presentations and working with groups and their collaborative skills. So how does this technology boom in our world change how we've done groups before? I think that Google and Microsoft have went to the stratosphere as far as collaboration is concerned. Being able to collaborate in real time through shared research and on shared documents is a game changer. It's a game changer for our students to understand And it's a game changer for us as and educators to be able to look in on how our groups are responding. Because again, another suggestion for me would be that I would see and be I don't know if I would say editor, but definitely a be able to comment on their said projects. And then that way you can even go so far as to look and see who's been inputting onto the project. And when it's time to present, requiring everybody to be a part of the process. But Google, Microsoft, absolutely phenomenal job of helping us to be way more collaborative, managing our products with the tools that they have. And then always, let me say this, talking to students about copyrights. I spent some time on that last week. And then as well as plagiarism. So making sure that we're correctly giving the authors their right due, and making certain that we're not stealing, in essence, people's products and their work, okay? But utilizing it for the purpose of sharing with others and in the right manner. Okay, so we're helping them to really build their digital footprint and be good digital citizens when we are going through that. And then I have those video options where they can meet via Zoom or Google Meet, and discuss Microsoft Teams and discuss things, share with each other some samples of the products in which they want to build and they want to come through to compare and to look at. So technology has been great in advancement of being able to collaborate. I would choose at the very beginning to share with my students one tool at a time, before I would put them in the group and decide on including technology. So if I were doing a rubric, I would say that I've already taught them to use these various items because they are aware of them. Most students are aware of them. I'm thinking more upper level right now, but most students are aware of them and they utilize them, but they don't always utilize them for educational purposes. So it's up to us to teach them how to use it for educational purposes. I can remember and recall that I had third graders working on projects together, sharing on documents, and that before we shared, I had to talk to them about everybody being in the document and someone deleting something by mistake, and just having these said conversations. This is all within your planning. This is all within your modeling of how you want said collaborations to transpire and how you want your students to develop and grow. All right, so we're leading toward the end of our discussion tonight, and I want you to think about which of these would increase as a result of the collaboration that I've shared with you on tonight. Will my students increase in academic achievement, student engagement, social emotional development, critical thinking skills, their communication abilities, or is this a all of the above type answer? Give you a moment to think. If you chose all of the above, you are correct. It is hundreds of studies have shown that when utilized and done with fidelity, collaborative groups, cooperative learning type activities and techniques improve academic achievement. Students are beginning to learn from each other and learn with each other new things. Student engagement, of course, if they have some ownership in the activity, they're going to be more likely to progress in it. Their social emotional development, when they're conversating and talking to each other and sharing their ideas, there's a level of vulnerability that comes in there. The critical thinking that's needed in order to complete the project or to understand the concept that you're trying to bring home. And of course, the conversations that are had at in each of the groups. I know that there's lots that can be said about collaboration. I think that it requires a very intentional design. I think that you could definitely find out who's understanding of the content in this matter, and definitely making sure that you are using assessments that will yield you whether or not they truly understand. Technology has soared above what we could think in regards to collaborating together. And our modeling of how we also collaborate is important as well. So in the end, I am grateful for you dropping by our station and listening, and as we talk about collaboration. If you have any information that you'd like to share with us, our information is listed on the screen, our email. Please visit ttinnovative.com in order to join our mailing list and continuing following us here on. I hope that you have liked and subscribed and will be willing to share our YouTube station with others. We are located on X, on Instagram, and Facebook. And I would love if you would like to connect with me personally on LinkedIn. But tonight, again, was all about collaboration. I hope that I have built the case that I wanted to build tonight on why I believe that C of the 4 C's needs to continue to be utilized, because it connects to the other 3 C's. And PPR, as stated before, I highlighted competency 8, but 2, 3, and 11 were also other ones that can emphasize the importance of engaging our students, having responsive learning environments, and making sure that our students can thrive. So again, tonight was awesome. I hope that you have a great week, and I'll see you again next Monday, for another opportunity to share with you more spotlights on professional development. Good night, everyone.